Good morning everyone. This is Karthik Chand from KC's Physics Arena. I hope you're all doing good at this critical time of pandemic. Let us unite and fight together against the COVID-19 to keep ourselves and the families and our surroundings very safe. Today we are going to see calculus as a part of basic mathematics. This has been an area where students are finding difficult, not just only in physics but mathematics and also in chemistry. The concept of differentiation, the concept of integration, when we are understanding them to the minute details, they are actually easier than the way they feel to us. What is calculus and how did it all began? Okay, so today, as a part of our basic mathematics, we are seeing calculus. One of the easiest chapters in mathematics is sets. We come across this concept of set in standard 8 or 9 in some of the boards. What is a set? We all know the basic definition. Set is a collection of elements. For example, if I say all the students of class 9, if you write down the names of all the students of class 9, that is a set. If I write all the boys in class 9, that is one set. All the girls in class 9, that is another set. So if I find the union of boys and girls in class 9, we get the overall set of class 9. So that is the basic. We know set is collection, group of elements that are stored in one particular location. So that is a set. Group of elements, group or collection of elements. Okay. Then you come across this term called relation. What is a relation? When you have two or more sets, any link that is established between the sets will form a relation. See, for example, there are two classes, 9th standard and 10th standard. Now, I am asking, please pick siblings from class 9 and 10. Means brother and sister or sisters who are part of class 9 and 10. So, if you pick, suppose there is a student called A in class 9 whose brother is in class B. So, this A comma B is a part of a relation. It says the siblings in class 9 and 10. They are part of this ordered pair is a part of the relation which is defined as siblings from class 9 and 10. So, this is about a relation. Now, if you take class 9 is having some 10 people, some 30 students, class 10 is having some 30 students. If we are asking for siblings, there are three sets. For example, A comma B, P comma Q, U comma V. So there are 6 students who make this relation. So the relation A comma B, P comma Q, U comma V will form is giving you the relation between class 9 and class 10 as siblings. So the next one is function. This is another term that we come across in our school. A function is also a relation between two sets, but how different it is from relation. Just some time ago, we have seen an example of siblings from class 9 to class 10. If in this example, we have seen there are 3 ordered pairs, A comma B, P comma Q, U comma V. That means there are only 3 people who are establishing the relation. So this is finite number of ordered pairs. See, AB is called one ordered pair, PQ is another ordered pair, UV is another ordered pair. So the number of ordered pairs which are part of this relation called siblings from class 9 and class 10 is finite. Only 3 in this case. Now if you consider function, now I say there are two variables x comma y. The relation between x comma y is x is equal to 2y. X is equal to 2y. This is the relation. X is a variable, y is a variable, and what is the relation that we are saying? X is equal to 2y for all, this is the symbol, for all x comma y, they belong to natural numbers. Natural numbers, we know how many natural numbers are there, starting from 1, 2, 3, and we have infinite number of natural numbers. Now if I ask you to write all the ordered pairs where x is equal to 2y, what will you do? You will write when y is equal to 1, x is equal to 2. When y is equal to 2, x is equal to 4. When y is equal to 3, x is equal to 6. Like this, how many ordered pairs will come? Infinite number of ordered pairs will come. When we have infinite number of ordered pairs to be written, it is not possible. We can never finish writing them. So that is why we are not able to write ordered pairs, write a relation there. So we are just defining x comma y is in such a way that x is equal to 2y, where x comma y belongs to natural numbers. So the relation with infinite number of ordered pairs will make a function. So that is the relation between a relation and a function. Next we go into the concept of limit. The concept of limit is very important to understand differentiation. What is limiting? You all have done numericals in limits. See, for example, I have y is equal to x square. Y is equal to x square is also nothing but y is a function of x in this case. So we are writing f of x is equal to x square. Now if I write at x is equal to 2, please find the value of the function. Then you are going to find f of 2. F of 2 is equal to 2 square, which is equal to 4. Same way, when I ask what is limit x tends to 2 f of x, then also you are substituting x is equal to 2 and you are saying 2 square is equal to 4 for the same example. We are getting the same answer in either case. When we are asked to find out f of 2, you got 4. When you are asked to find limit x tends to 2, then also it is 4. Then why we are doing it separately? In almost all the problems of limits, we tend to substitute the value of x and find the value of function at that particular place. How different the limit is from function. Okay. We will see a small example to understand. Assume that there are two cities. Okay. Like for example, you have Bangalore to Mumbai. Okay, I do not know the exact distance between them, but assume the distance is somewhere around 1000 kilometers. Just assume, example. So you started traveling from Bangalore to Mumbai. When you are traveling, I told you, you can travel at whatever speed you want, but there is only one condition. Please travel on a particular day. You have to travel only half of the remaining distance. So on the first day, day 1, how much is left? Day 1 you have 1000 kilometer left. So left is 1000 kilometer. So how much you will travel? Half of this means you will travel only 500 kilometer. On the day 2, 500 kilometer is left. So on the second day you have to travel only 250 kilometer. On the third day, since 250 kilometer is left, you will travel only 125 kilometer. So you are traveling only half of the remaining distance. After a few days, assume if only 1 kilometer is left. If only 1 kilometer is left, you will travel only half kilometer that day. After a few months, if only 1 centimeter is left, then you will travel only half of centimeter. So if you continue to travel like this for so many years, so there is a mark called Mumbai. Imagine how close you are to Mumbai, but you will never reach Mumbai. if you travel continuously like this for a few years, you will be very, very close to Mumbai. And all these years, whenever I call and ask you, where are you? You will say, I am traveling towards Mumbai. That will be your answer. So, at any point of time, you are going towards Mumbai, but you will never reach Mumbai. So, imagine that you traveled for many years. After so many years, the difference between you and Mumbai is so small that you can't even imagine. That is called infinitesimally small. The term is called infinitesimally small. Infinitesimally small. That means smaller than what you can imagine. So when I say limit x tends to 2, x is going towards 2 and it is very, very close to 2, but it is not equal to 2. So it is somewhere 1.99999 and so on. It is not equal to 2, and also it is 2.00000, so many zeros and 1. So these values are very, very close to 2, but they are not equal to 2. So this region which is surrounding 2, only, it is called neighborhood of 2. Neighborhood of 2. So you say from 2 plus delta to 2 minus delta. 2 plus delta to 2 minus delta. So delta is extremely small value. So this region is called neighborhood of 2. So in that neighborhood only we are playing all these games with respect to the concepts like limits, differentiation, integration, etc. Okay, this is about limiting yourself to the closest region of a destination. It may be a number, it may be a place. That is called limit. Okay, now we will come across this concept of slope in straight lines. So if there is x and y axis and you have a straight line, first basic we are taking straight line. What is the definition of slope? If you draw a line similar to x axis and the line makes an angle theta with positive x axis, then the tan of the slope, the tan of the angle is called slope. That is why it is defined as the tangent of the angle the straight line makes with the positive x axis. The tangent of the angle the straight line makes with positive x axis, it is called slope. So simply, if you find out the angle theta, then you will be able to find out tan theta and hence you can find out the slope. Now for example, we have this straight line. There are 2 points x1 comma y1 and x2 comma y2 as part of this straight line. Now we want to find out the slope. Now we know I have to find out tan theta. So here if I make a straight line which is parallel to x axis, this is also parallel to x axis. Now I know this is the angle theta. Now I want tan theta, so I am constructing one right angle triangle here, and I know this distance, this is x2 minus x1 and this height is y2 minus y1. So tan theta is opposite side by adjacent side, therefore you write tan theta is equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1 or delta y divided by delta x. What is delta? Delta y means change in y coordinate. Delta x means change in x coordinate. Y slope, okay. So when we are finding the slope, we are finding change in the function value with respect to unit change in the variable value. So change in y with respect to a change in x. That is the definition of slope. I will also explain you a little later why we are finding slopes. See, major part of mathematics we study without knowing why we are studying them. So it is very much good to understand the reason behind studying a concept, so that that comes handy when we need it. So tan theta is equal to y2 minus y1 by x2 minus y1, which is written as delta y by delta x. That means here delta, it refers to finite change. Finite change. Finite means what? Big enough. Means what we can imagine or what we can see. That is called finite change. Okay. So finite change in y divided by finite change in x gave you slope of straight line. So how many points did we need to find out the slope of a line? We needed minimum of 2 points. y2 minus x1 by x2 minus x1 came from 2 points x1 comma y1 and x2 comma y2. Now we will move on to slope of a curve. Slope of a curve. Straight line is also a curve, because curve is nothing but a continuous collection of points. It may be a straight line, it may not be a straight line. So assume that there is a curve which is not a straight line. How do we find out slope in this case? Slope of a curve which is not a straight line is, if you look here, we cannot form straight lines. So what we will do? We will draw tangents. So you can draw tangent. See, tangent at this point. And again here, if you take the second point, first point is A, second point is B. If you want, this is again another. So slope at A, if it makes an angle theta 1, slope at A, slope denoted by M, slope at A is tan theta 1, and slope at B, if this angle is theta 2, it will be tan of theta 2. And if you look at points A and B, the tangents at these points A, B make different angles with x-axis. So for a non-straight line curve, for a curve which is not a straight line, the slope is varying from one point to the another point. The slope is not constant. It is continuously different. It is continuously changing. That is why a straight line is called a curve with constant slope. All the other curves are different. Okay. Now we will try to apply. We already have the formula saying that slope m is equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. We have this. We will try to apply in this case of a curve. This is point A, this is point B. Now I know, let us say point A is x1 y1 and point B is x2 y2. Now if I am applying m is equal to y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1, if I am applying this formula, that means I am finding, so first I am drawing a straight line which is connecting point A and point B, and I am finding the slope of that straight line AB. So y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1 is giving me the slope of the line segment AB. It is not slope of the curve at point A or point B. It is the slope of line segment AB, which is not needed to us. We want to find out slope of the curve at point A or point B. Okay, that is the difference. So here what I will do, since I want, see here the irony is one thing. If I have to find out slope, I need 2 points. But if I travel from A to another point, slope is changing. I am not getting slope of the curve at point A. Instead, I am getting slope of the line segment connecting A with the other point. Okay. So now I come close and I choose another point C, which is very close. Now again I am able to draw a straight line AC. So if I am using x3 comma y3, a point C, and finding the slope, then I will get y3 minus y1 divided by x3 minus x1. This is nothing but slope of the line segment AC, which I don't require. So we needed 2 points to find out the slope, but the moment I use the second point, I am not able to find the slope at point A. So what I have to do? I have to choose the point very close to D. Very close to D means you should be able to convince everyone that point D is extremely close to point A. How close? Closer than what you can imagine. When you say D is very close to point A, you can also say, I needed 2 points to find slope, so I have A and D. That condition is satisfied. But D is as close as that I cannot imagine. It is extremely close, infinitesimally close to point A. When I say that, A and D are not very different. It is not an assumption. We are trying to limiting the value of the distance between A and D to be almost 0. So, your requirement of 2 points is satisfied. Since D is extremely close to point A, you don't, you can convince yourself saying that yes, I am going to find the slope at point A itself, not the line segment. You are not able to draw the line segment because A and D are two extremely close points. So, here what I get, when I take the slope is equal to, assuming D to be x4 comma y4, assuming D to be, then I can write x4 minus x1 divided by, y4 minus y1 divided by x4 minus x1. And what is y4 minus y1? Very, very small difference in the y coordinate values of A and D. They are infinitesimally small. So that is why I write it as dy divided by dx. So differentiating any function is nothing but finding the slope. How easily we found slope in straight lines? But when we say differentiation, we have that mental block. Differentiation is nothing but finding the slope. Slope of what? A curve which is not a straight line. See, for example, if a function y is equal to mx is there, this is nothing but equation of straight line that is passing through origin. So it is like this, where x comma y is a point, and I said if this angle is theta, tan of the angle theta is equal to slope m. Okay, so take y is equal to mx. Now we know if y is equal to mx, differentiation dy by dx is equal to m by the formula of differentiation. I am not going to teach you the formulae and numericals of differentiation. I am only trying to make you understand the concept of differentiation here. So we know this formula. If y is equal to mx or y is equal to kx, differentiation will be equal to the constant. Now we will see how slope and differentiation are equal. Now if this point is x comma y on the graph, I am able to construct a right angle triangle, and we know this is equal to x and this is equal to y. Now what is tan theta? Tan theta is nothing but opposite side by adjacent side, so it is y divided by x. Now in this equation, what is m value? M is nothing but slope. So when we found out tan theta value to find the slope, or when we found out dy by dx, we got the same answer. So here y by x is nothing but m. Here also dy by dx is nothing but m. So differentiation is same as finding the slope of any curve. Now what is the use of these differentiations, or what is the use of slopes? Just for a couple of minutes we will try to discuss with some examples. Not every relation between two variables will be a straight line. That is the reason why we had the concept of differentiation coming into the picture. For example, you all have a pen in your hand. Let us see what are the things that are required to manufacture and sell a pen. The cost of a pen especially, it depends upon a few things. Pen is made up of plastic, then metal, probably at the tip, then you have ink, then you have people as labor involved, then you have marketing costs, and then the profit of the company. So these are some factors. There may be many factors, but these are some factors that will determine the cost of any pen, especially the brand value and all these things. It depends on the marketing. So if the cost of plastic changes, suppose plastic cost is increased, it will have some impact on determining the cost of a pen. If the labor charges are increased, if the people are demanding higher wages, then automatically the cost of the pen will change. If the marketing cost, the logistic costs are increasing, then also the cost of the pen will increase. So all these, see, the cost of a pen, you can write the cost of pen is a function of these 6: plastic, metal, ink, people, marketing, and the profit. So you have 6 variables to determine the cost of the pen. So the change in any one variable will impact the cost of the pen. Suppose if I do not want to change the cost of the pen as a manufacturer, what will I do? I will cut down on my profits, or I will reduce my investment on some other things. I will go for a cheaper plastic, or I will go for cheaper people to work for me. So like that, the change in cost of the pen, which is nothing but your Y, the value, with respect to change in any one of these factors, when you are studying as a person who is doing business, that is nothing but studying the slope, studying how the Y value, the cost of the pen is varying with respect to any one of the factors, is nothing but differentiation there, studying the slope or studying differentiation. That is the use of differentiation in our day-to-day lives. We keep doing this. For example, you ask your mom, like, at home, if the price of groceries increase, how they manage. That is also understanding, but they don't calculate. That's all common sense. So that has gone into our common sense, that in such a way that we have been using these techniques from a long time, but when we put it on paper, we find it difficult. Okay, so this is about differentiation. Now we will move on to our next topic, integration. Before we try to understand integration, we need to learn about area under a curve. Area. Okay. Assuming that, first we will assume the curve is a straight line. Area under a curve. I will draw a simpler straight line which is passing through origin. So the equation of this line is y is equal to mx, and that I am taking a point here which is a comma b. So a comma b is a point on the straight line, y is equal to mx. So the area under the curve from origin to point a comma b is what we are going to find out. Area under this straight line from points 0 comma 0 to point a comma b, it is what we are going to find out. So from 0 comma 0 to a comma b, if I want to find out the area, the shaded region will give us the area. So the shaded region is in the form of a triangle. We know what is the area of a triangle? Half base into height. So here area is equal to half into base into height. So in this, the base is equal to x coordinate a and b, and the height is equal to y coordinate b. So we get the area is half a into b, half ab, or you can also say, for a y coordinate, b, the area turned out to be half the difference in x coordinates. So it is a minus 0 into the height b, or b minus 0, this particular one, this particular area, or simply half ab also we can write. Now there is a straight line. we want to find out the area of the curve. So this point, initial point of the straight line is x1, y1, final point is x2, y2. So if I want to find the area of this, then this is the area under the curve, between the curve and the x-axis. So this shaded portion will give us the area. So how do we find the area of this shaded portion? First, area of this rectangle and then area of this triangle. So area of rectangle plus area of triangle will give us the total area under the curve. Okay. Now, another very even more simpler example, if I take a straight line that is parallel to x-axis. So what is the area under the curve here? So if I draw, the initial point of the straight line is x1, y1, the final point is x2, y2. Here the y coordinate is constant. So I can write x1, y1 is equal to some x1, y, x2, y2 is equal to x2, y, where this point is y. Okay, now the area is nothing but the area of this shaded rectangle. Area of this rectangle. How do you find out the area of this rectangle? The area of the rectangle is equal to length into breadth. Okay, what is the length? Length is equal to x2 minus x1 and the breadth here is equal to y. So it is nothing but x2 minus x1 multiplied by y, or I can also write it as y into delta x. Why? Delta x is nothing but change in x coordinates, x2 minus x1. So what did the area turn out to be here? Area is equal to y into delta x. So the simplest form of area is for area of rectangle, which is nothing but y dx in this case. Now let us go to another example where you have a curve. Now they are asking us to find the area of this rectangle. Find the area of this curve, area under the curve. So now I know area of one rectangle is equal to y into delta x. So here, if I am breaking this into parts, okay, first I got a shaded region. This shaded region is not a rectangle. Why? If you enlarge this and see, the area is like this, the shape is like this. This is the shape. This is not a rectangle because there is some extra region here. This shaded region, this is extra. So this does not turn out to be a rectangle. Now how do we do this? If it is a rectangle, we can easily find out y into delta x is our area. So here what I do is, I will go even more closer and see if it is a rectangle. But then the shape of this turned out to be like this. This is also not a rectangle. So if I say this is almost looking like a rectangle, somebody will come and say no, that is not rectangle. See, there is some extra region here on the top. So if you want to make it a rectangle, what you have to do? First we need to understand why we are not able to construct a rectangle. When x value changes, y is not remaining a constant, y is changing. If y value is changing, it's either going up or coming down, it is no longer a rectangle. As x value changes, y value should remain constant, then only it is a rectangle. But here, as x value changes, y is changing. It is not a straight line parallel to x-axis. It is not parallel to x-axis. It is continuously varying curve. So what I have to do? I have to bring this third point, bring the point extremely close and say, now see, this is almost looking similar to a rectangle. So see, when x value changes, y changes. This is our challenge. Since it is changing, we are not able to apply the area of rectangle formula and find out the area under the curve here. So what I am trying to do, what we are trying to do is change x by infinitesimally small value by extremely small value. By extremely small value. By how much? Small value, extremely small value, smaller than what we can imagine. It is nothing but dx. Change the value of x by infinitesimally small value dx, and you convince everybody around, I have changed x. When x value changes, y is supposed to change. Now I am changing x by this very small value that y wanted to change. By the time it wanted to change itself, I stopped changing x. So that small is the change in x. So you can assume that in that neighborhood of x, you can assume y to remain constant. If you are not able to satisfy yourself, or if you are not able to convince yourself, bring or change the x to even more smaller value than you can imagine, then y will almost remain to be a constant. So in that case, you can say the small area dA is equal to, since y remained constant by the small change in x, so it is equal to y into dx. So dx is a very small value, a small change. This is dx. So from this x1, initial point of x1 to final point x2, how many dx will we get? We get infinite number of dx. So if I want to find out total area, I have to add all the small areas that I get. See this small area, then next another y dx, another y dx, another y dx. Like how many y dx's I get? I get infinite number of y dx value. So we have to add, total area will be sum of infinite number of y dx that we get. So here the challenge is summing infinite values. See, for example, I have asked you, add the first 5 even numbers. So what will it be? 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 10. So you can write 6 plus 6, 12, 20, 30. This is the value. Without using progressions or anything, if I ask you to add, you can add. If I say add first 30 natural numbers, so 1 plus 2 plus 3 up to 30, we can sit and add. If I say please add first 1000 natural numbers, you can still sit and add, probably it will take some time. But if same way if I ask you to add first 1 lakh natural numbers without using formula, without using calculator, you will do it in a few days. But if I say add infinite number of natural numbers, when I say infinite number of natural numbers, where do we stop? We can never stop, because we do not know what infinity is. So in that case, what you have to do? You cannot add infinite number of any values. We cannot add infinite numbers. So here we know there is something called sigma. The symbol sigma is denoting summation. When I say sigma I is equal to 1 to 100 I, what does this mean? Sum of all the values from 1 to 100. So I can add, but if there are infinite numbers, we cannot use sigma. I can never write sigma I is equal to 1 to infinity. This is not possible, because summation is not possible. What is summation? In our childhood we might have learnt. Summation is nothing but counting. We cannot count infinite numbers. That is why summing infinite numbers is not possible. So what you do? You have y dx, you have another y dx, you have another y dx. Since summation is not possible, we cannot use sigma y dx. Instead of that, since addition is not possible, what you do? You bring all these y dx's together and say this is the total amount. So you bring all the y dx's together to give the total value. Bringing all together is nothing but integrating. The English meaning of the word integrate is to bring all together. So here also what we are doing? We are bringing all these small values together. So from x1 to x2, from x1 to x2, integrate means bring together all y dx values, you get total area. So area is nothing but integral. This is the symbol of integral. So integral y dx from where to where? From x1 to x2. So these x1 and x2, they are called limits. x1 is called lower limit, x2 is called upper limit. So what is integration at the end? Isn't this an easy topic? It is nothing but something similar to what we have been doing from our childhood, addition. But here integration is always referring to bringing together infinite number of elements. So that is about integration. We have seen a set. The entire study of the calculus begins with a set. Then we have seen relation. Relation is nothing but a finite number of ordered pairs which connect two or more sets. What is a function? Infinite number of ordered pairs. When we have infinite number, we will not be able to put them down. So what we are doing? We are trying to show, or we are trying to represent all these ordered pairs with the help of an expression. That turned out to be a function. Then we have seen what slope is. Slope and differentiation as similar concepts we have seen. And then integration, summation and integration to be similar concepts. They are doing the same job but in different cases. Just like the relation between the relation between a relation and a function. Relation is finite number and then function is infinite number. Slope you will be able to calculate with the help of delta y by delta x if it is a straight line. If it is not a straight line, continuously changing value, infinite number of slopes will be there for a curve. So when that is there, you are finding with the help of differentiation dy by dx. When you are adding finite number, you are simply counting, so you are using sigma, the summation. But when you have infinite number of elements to count, since you cannot count, you are bringing all of them together and say it is integration. So I believe that this class, which covered basic calculus, has helped you to understand the idea behind these complicated, what we feel complicated. They are not really complicated, but we might think that they are complicated and we ourselves make these concepts complicated. So I believe that these areas have reached you in an easy manner. So I would like to thank you all to view this video. As I always say, please see, please share and please subscribe to KC's Physics Arena to understand and to enjoy learning and living physics in a better way. Thank you so much.